So as I said earlier, we'll be looking at an aspect of cybersecurity, web application, right? In this first part of this session, we'll be looking at what does web application entails, a brief introduction to what web application means, and before we look consider securing security aspect of it. So what we'll be covering in this session, these are the agendas for today. We'll be looking at introduction to web application, understanding how web application works, exploring most common critical security risks to web application on OWASP Top 10, and brief introduction of Burpsuite, a web proxy tool. So what is a web application? As you can see before you, a web application is application software that runs on a web browser. Unlike software programs that run locally and natively on the operating system of the device, web applications are delivered on the World Wide Web to users with an active network connection. So let me explain that. It's simple. The explanation is simple, but let me still explain. Let me buttress on that. As you said, a web application is an application software that runs on a web browser. In our past lecture, I think in the first section, first session, yes, I defined what a program or the software means. A software is just a code, right? It is a code that has been programmed to solve a specific problem, right? So a web application also is a programming, is a code that is a code, because it composes of, if you are familiar with programming, you know that web application, particularly if we're talking about mobile application, it runs on Java. The code that is being used to put all those things together is known as Java. So the programming language rather. So as is being defined, unlike software programs that run locally and natively on the operating system on the device, on your laptop now, or your phones, you have let's say Facebook application on your phone. You have what is it called? Any application, game application, you know. Uh, Pardon. Let me quickly accept. I think somebody wants to join. All right. So as I was saying, it is still the same logic, right? But in this time, when we are considering web application, it's an application that are delivered on the World Wide Web, and I hope all of us are mostly familiar with that. But let me still show us so that I won't be presuming. Actually, this is what they call World Wide Web. www, right? That is the full meaning of World Wide Web. www is a protocol that is used on web application, right? So that is the full meaning of World Wide Web. And as we are seeing in the definition here, that uh, web applications are delivered on the World Wide Web to users with an active network connection. We all know that without if you don't have data, right, there is no way you can access Facebook on your phone. So I got this definition from Wikipedia. So this is my own definition here. A web application that runs on the user side is known as a client-side application, right? For example, Facebook, WhatsApp, we all have that on our phones, on our system. These are web. Please note where a web application that runs on the user side. On the user side now is known as client-side application, and a web application that runs on the host or server machine is known as a server-side application, right? So, for example, we have Apache, we have Microsoft Internet Information Services, which is IIS. So there is an application that sits on the user side, and there's an application that sits on the server side. So they both, for example, now let me go back to example the facebook.com that I was using. If you pick up your phone or your system, you type facebook.com, Facebook, or this is a LinkedIn page. Let me just type it to my browser here. So while that is loading, the logic here is that, the page that we display, this page you are seeing before you now, this is what they call web application on the client side. The only way we access the server side application of it is through a browser. You can see that I'm using Chrome browser to access linkedin.com, right? linkedin.com, this page that is showing me here, this is what it's only reflecting on the client side, but it's getting a response from the server somewhere. Maybe it's in the cloud, yes, or probably it will be in the cloud. There is a web application server side that is sitting on that cloud that is giving this response. As you can see, if I should break this down, this is what they call protocol HTTPS. If you can see HTTPS, of course, this is not part of objective of today, but let me quickly explain so that it can make more sense. It can give flesh to what I was trying to explain. This is HTTPS. It simply implies that it is using a secure protocol to communicate, right, between the client and the server side. As you can see, we have www dot. That first www dot, as we saw earlier, is World Wide Web, right, which is a subdomain. It is also known as subdomain. And the dot LinkedIn that you can see, linkedin.com itself is known as the domain. Is the domain, is the real domain that we are communicating in. And you can see the forward slash. This forward slash, it implies that, for example, now if you create, let me show you a vivid example. Let me go to my desktop. This is my desktop, right? I hope you guys can see it. This is my desktop. Let me quickly create a new folder here. New folder. I will just name it cyber. This is a folder, right? A folder is also synonymous to directory, right? Under this cyber folder, I can actually insert, what is it called, another file in it. Is that so? So to do that, let me copy a file from somewhere here. Let me go to PDF. As you can see, this is my PDF document that I have on this particular folder. But let me copy, just to explain what I was discussing. Let me copy a document from here. Copy and go to back to that cyber folder I just created. This is the cyber. So I can paste it here under cyber. You can see I now have a file under this cyber directory or folder. So let me go back to the web interface. This forward slash you are seeing here, right, is like this the first feed you are seeing here is like the folder. You can see another forward slash, right? If we are accessing something that is under feed is like that cyber folder I just created now. For example, now let's say there is something under it which I did earlier, that I pasted that PDF document under that cyber. It will also show here, but in this case it will be on the server side. I'm just using that to explain what all these things mean, in case you are coming across of it. Of course, as I said, it's not the objective, it's not part of the objective of today's session. I'm just digressing so as to clarify what I'm explaining. So let me go back. Please confirm if you can still see my screen. So a web application that runs on the host server machine is known as a server-side application, which is Apache, right? We have internet information service. So let me show you another example. I have a tool here that they call it Wapalizer. Is a Chrome extension. As you can see before you, Wapalizer, what it does is that whenever I load a page, it will quickly show me the technologies that page or website is made of. If it is running a JavaScript, the server that is running on that domain, whatever technology they are using, as you can see, the advertising technology they are using, the segmentation, the JavaScript libraries. Let me go back to the LinkedIn as I was using as I'm using as an example. I will check here now. and I will try to show the server that is running. Of course, it's not displaying under this. Hello, let me use another. I think let me use facebook.com. I just want us to I just want to show us how we can get to know the server or the name of the service or the website, the server side web application that is running, because this is important when we are talking about hacking. We first of all have to know the type of what is it called, if it is a Linux based server that is running on a target machine, or if it is a Windows based, because we will develop our payload, we will develop our exploits according to the types of platform that they are running on. So well, Facebook is not showing. Let me check another site. This is Microsoft. So as you can see, we have Java. They are running on Java, the JavaScript framework they are using. As we know, JavaScript is client side. What is it called? Language, programming language is on client side. They are using React. JavaScript library they are using. I don't want to digress at this point, because all of this I'm just sure is an addendum to the objective of today. You can download, you can just search on Google for Wapalizer. It's a Chrome extension that you can put on your phone. Whenever a page is loading, it will be showing the statistics or the technologies of that is running on that website you are loading. So let me go back to, excuse please, the sites. This. Please, I want to confirm. Let me check how many people. Okay, Christiana. Christiana, are you there? Hello, Christiana. Oh, sorry, Christian. Sorry. All right. This is my slide. A minute, please. I'm trying to. I think it's blocking my view here. So let me run quickly. The next, this is a pictorial representation of web application. As I said earlier, the way you access facebook.com is by bringing up your browser. You type facebook.com, or if it is a mobile app you are using, of course you have the mobile app on your phone already. Of course, the same logics applies to whether it is a mobile app or you are typing it to your browser. It still applies. The same logic applies. So this is the client trying to communicate. This is the web service here. Let's say this web service is Facebook, right? You are requesting a service from facebook.com. So it send the request through what we know as the World Wide Web, right? And if it is a secure site, they will use HTTPS, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, which is the S that is there is a form of encryption, which stands for SSL and TLS, secure, security layer secure, and transport layer secure. So you get a response back from the server, which is the one. If you type facebook.com now, the page that displays, that is the response that we show. So understanding how web application work, we'll be looking briefly at how it works. What are the things that is going on whenever you engage with any service on the internet? There are some things that are going on that you can't see. The step one is the user accesses a web application via a web browser or mobile application, triggering a request to the web server over the internet, right? Of course, we know that without data, there's no way you can access anything on the internet. We need data. Note that there may be security measures, firewalls or cloud, access security brokers, and load balancer. Those are the security aspect of web application, but we won't be looking at that today. As I said earlier, we will just be looking at how the fundamental knowledge of how web application works. And step two, when a user send a request, maybe through the web browser or through the mobile application, now the server will respond. The web server forward the request to the web application server, right? Don't be, you can, let me read that again. The web server forwards the request. You'll be wondering that is there something that it's saying that the web server forward the request to web application server. Of course, if you are requesting, for example, you are requesting on your facebook.com, you are requesting for a page. There is a web server which is also known as a web application server, where it's also, in this case, you can say database, where all your information resides. All the information that whenever we are opening a new service on the internet, maybe you are just registering for a Facebook on Facebook service, for a Facebook service rather, sorry. So the request, all the information they gather, they store it on somewhere, which is known as a database. That's where they keep, all the information they gather about you. So whenever you are trying to log in next time, they will have to, immediately. Of course, this thing happens in a milliseconds. It doesn't take much time, right? So whenever you try to access the Facebook, when they ask for your name, what is it called, your username and password, and you put it correctly, web server will be the one doing the major bulk of work, right? Trying to retrieve the information from the database. So that is the web application server. The web application server performs the requested task, such as querying the database or processing the data, then generate the result of the requested data. If your password and if your username and password is correct, you will be granted access to your page. But if it is not correct, you will be denied access. That is, step three then is the web application server send the result back to the web server. Now, in this case, whenever what the client is actually engaging with is the web server, not the database or itself, because we can't, if an organization is allowing a client to be engaging with database itself, they they are not security conscious, and it's so risky. Of course, you can of course there are some sites that are still doing that, which implies that they lack security hygiene, cyber security hygiene. So step four, the web server delivers the requested information to the client, be it desktop, mobile device, tablet, etc., and the information appears on the user display. That's just simple, way that it works. So in this aspect, before I proceed further, let me check. Christian, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
All right. I hope you're following, right?
Yes, sir, yes, sir. But I'm having some issues with my network. It's just going and coming, but I'm still here, sir.
All right, all right. So in case you have anything we want me to buttress on any question, just interfere, please.
Okay, sir, no problem.
All right. So let me go back to the slide. Exploring OWASP top 10. Let me open my browser here again. So what is OWASP? What does it stand for? The OWASP top 10 is a standard awareness document for developers and web application security. It represents a broad consensus about the most critical security risk to web applications. Why are we considering this? Because as I said earlier, we'll be looking at web application, and the focus of this first part is to give us basic understanding of how it works. Subsequently, we'll be looking at how we can secure it, how we can find vulnerability in web application that is out there, and also we'll be our landing point on that will be that, giving us some of course references, external references, because as I said earlier, the time frame for this course we can't fully cover much, right? But I want to launch us into how we can be making money with this, because this is a hot cake field in the area of cybersecurity. You can do it without not, even though you don't have degrees, what is it called, in computer science, you know, you can do it remotely wherever you are. There are some organizations that are out there that are doing the works of, they call it bug bounty. You can search after the course, search on the internet for bug bounty. So we'll be looking at the top 10 vulnerabilities. As I said at Divine earlier, vulnerabilities are just loopholes, right? Security loopholes in any organization. So this organization, or WASP, is an organization, non-profit organization, as you can see from here. OWASP's foundation works to improve the security of software through its community-led open source software projects. Hundreds of chapters worldwide, tens of thousands of members, and by hosting local and global conferences. They are open source. Open source means they are free. They are organizations that are working together to they do a research on web application and its vulnerability. So we'll be looking at the top 10 web application security risk as of 2017. You can see here we have injection. Of course, these terms you may not understand that for that, but just follow me. Injection, we have broken authentication, sensitive data exposure, XML, external entities, broken access control, security misconfiguration, cross-site scripting, insecure deserialization, using components with known vulnerabilities, insufficient logging and monitoring. So that's what, as of 2017, that was the research, the top 10 vulnerabilities affecting web application. Now, as of 2021, broken access control, we have cryptographic failures, injection, insecure design, security misconfiguration, vulnerable and outdated components, identification and authentication failures, software and data integrity failures, security logging and monitoring failures. So let's go through the definition so that we can have some basic understanding. As you can see here, broken access control moves, they are just giving the statistics of, they are just comparing the statistics of each vulnerability from between 2017 and 2021, but I think they still divine it. Let's move up from the fifth position. 94% of applications were tested for some form of broken access control. The 34 common weakness enumeration mapped to the broken. Of course, we don't need this at this point. So you can go through this later on your own and check. But as I said, we just want to explore, right? So this is one of the resources that you can learn about web application, the common vulnerabilities affecting it. The reason I'm showing this is I want to show us some of the definition of what we saw earlier on OWASP's page. Of course, in our subsequent lecture, we'll be looking basically on two vulnerabilities, SQL and SSS, which is cross-site scripting and SQL injection. So let me start from here. File, you can see here what are file upload vulnerabilities. For example, now on facebook.com, right, they allow users to upload files. Maybe you have a picture to upload to your profile pics, the section for your profile pics. They are allowing some form of uploading on their sites. Of course, in that regard to an hacker, based on researches, there are vulnerabilities that some organization doesn't take conscious of in remediating or in fixing before they just allow any types of file to be uploaded. For example, we know that picture ought to be the what is it called, the extension of picture is either should be in JPG, IMG. I also talked about extension in the first session. Those are the extension of pictures. But just imagine that a website is allowing a user to upload something that ends with .php. PHP is a server programming language, and if a user can upload that, of course there's a way we can manipulate the server to do something that it wasn't intended to do, or it wasn't programmed to do. In such manner, an hacker can arbitrarily do whatever he wishes to do on and compromise the servers, the targeted server sites. So as you can see, a file upload vulnerabilities is one of the vulnerabilities. What are file upload vulnerabilities? File upload vulnerabilities are when a web server allows users to upload files to its file system without sufficiently validating things like their name, type, content, or size. Failing to properly enforce restrictions on this could mean that even a basic image upload function can be used to upload arbitrary and potentially dangerous files instead. This could even include server-side script files that enable remote code execution. That is just the basic of it. You can go to these results later on your own and try to, because in our subsequent class, the one we'll be practicing with the two major, popular vulnerability that is mostly found on web application is SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and I'll be showing us practical aspect. We'll be working with a vulnerable vulnerable machine metasploitable tool. I use that I think in session 2 or so. Is it session 2 or 3? No, session 2. We practice with that. When I hacked into that machine, if you haven't watched session 2, please go back to it. We'll be using the same machine, right, to practice with SQL injection in our subsequent classes. So let me go back to my slide. Exploring OWASP top 10, we have, as we saw earlier, weak, guessable or hard-coded passwords, insecure network services, insecure ecosystem service interface, lack of secure update mechanism, use of insecure or outdated components. Use of insecure or outdated component. For example, like what I show you, Appalizer that I show you is a security researcher tool, right? As you can see from here, just imagine that this OneDrive here, this is a OneDrive, right? And it's telling me that they are using React 16.13.1. Just imagine that the organization or the React maker, the people that made the React, are publicly announced that an hacker has found a vulnerability by which they can gain remote code execution with React 16 point, let's say 12.0. An organization, for example, in this case, Facebook I'm just using Facebook as an example, is still running on that outdated version. You can quickly use this Chrome, this thing, what is it called? Wapalizer is a technology, is a Chrome extension tool that you can use to figure out whatever technology, the domains or the websites you are surfing through is running on. So in this case, let's say it's Facebook, they are still running on version 16.12.0, and there is an exploit that is made publicly available. An attacker can quickly use that to breach into Facebook organization. So it is best that any organization out there, they update the version of the softwares, the components, or the all the components that they are using, they must not be running on outdated version. You can see here insufficient privacy protection, insecure data transfer and storage, lack of device management, insecure default settings, and so and so. So in this case, we'll be exploring Burpsuite, right? I don't know if you've been able to download Kali Linux. I shared the link, the video on how to do that on the Discord server, and yes, on the Discord server. The as I said earlier, Kali Linux is a program, is an operating system that is tailored for hacking. It comprises of tools that is meant for hacking and security, cybersecurity researching purpose, right? It is, it's just like an hammer, right? The effectiveness of an hammer is basically determined by the person that is handling the hammer. Kali Linux is a neutral tool. It is good, it is also bad, right? Just imagine, look at that hammer that I mentioned earlier. It can be used to destroy a building, whereas it can also be used to drive a nail into a furniture, right? You can use Kali Linux for a good purpose, and an hacker, malicious hacker, also use it for bad intention, right? So we be the as I said, if you haven't installed it on your system, please go and watch that video and make it available on your system, because we'll be using it. And I'll be introducing a Burpsuite, a brief introduction of Burpsuite. Let me go back. Let me go back. As you can see, our agenda is to cover a brief introduction of Burpsuite. It's a web proxy tool. As we get to see, Burpsuite is a web proxy tool that sits between the client and the server, right? From there, we can begin to manipulate every request. In the first session also, I think second session, or rather, I talked about Wireshark, where I was discussing that every packet we are sending, every traffic we are sending, of course, they are going through the wire. For example, if you type facebook.com, and you just wait and you see a page display before you, but in reality, there are some traffic that are sending, that are going through maybe you are using Wi-Fi or you are using a cable internet. There are some traffic that are going in and out of that Wi-Fi or cable internet, but you can't see it with your physical eye. There is a tool, that is available to check those things. In case of networking now, we use Wireshark to analyze the TCP, the establishment of TCP/IP, the three-way handshake. Please, if you haven't, I'll be referring to most of the past session we had. So please go back to that session and watch it. In this case, when we are talking about web application, there is a tool also we can use to analyze traffic, that we can use to manipulate traffic. It is known as Burpsuite. So I will be diving into my Kali Linux machine now and show us a brief introduction of the tool. A minute, please. This is my Kali Linux boss. While that is opening, let me check. All right. So this is my Kali Linux. Firstly, I will just give us let me check whether there is a manual that is pre-installed on it that can give us basic understanding of what the tool Burpsuite is meant for. Man stand for man, is a manual, is a short form of manual, Oh, there is no, we don't have manual for Burpsuite, but let me open it. I will also I may make a separate video on how to get Burpsuite on Kali Linux, because the one that was pre-installed with Burpsuite, sorry, with Kali Linux, we won't be using that here. We'll be using the one that we have to download on ourselves, by ourselves rather, and configure it by ourselves. Let me show you. You can see I have two types here. This Burpsuite, the one without community edition is the one that was pre-installed. If you have download Kali Linux and you will find that this is the one that was pre-installed with Kali Linux, right? We won't be using that. We have to download our own, right? As I've said, I will create or I will send a link on how to do that to us, or I can make a separate video by myself and do that. Here we can see this is the one we'll be using, the one I've downloaded and I've configured, Burpsuite Community Edition. So the reason why we'll be using Kali Linux for this, because of course you can run this on Windows or any other OS that is apart from Linux, but you have to first of all install Java on your system. You know, without Java it won't work, right? Because the Java it's a tool that runs mostly on Java. So, but when you are on Linux, all those things has been, you don't have to go through hassle of installing it one by one. So let me just click next. I'm using a free version here. Of course, we have professional version, which is a paid version of, but this is a free. Uh, this is a, what is it called? The interface of Burpsuite. As this is a community edition. Community edition means free version, right? So let me click next. Let me start Burpsuite now. So it's running. And while that is running, let me give an example of how it works. Let me open my web browser here, because I want to show us how what it actually entails. The brief, as I said, is a brief because I want to make this cause a short this session to be so short, right? At least, at most rather, an hour 10 minutes. So this is my Firefox, and there is a tool, as I've said earlier. I won't be going through that here. I will know how to configure Burpsuite. I just want to show us a brief introduction to it. There is a tool I have configured to proxy my. It's still loading. So this is a interface. This is a Burpsuite before you, as you can see. This is a interface, the basic interface of Burpsuite. And as you can see, this is the dashboard. The target. This is where all the scopes, the sitemap, the scope of the target will be targeting. In this case, I'll be using facebook.com. This is where we'll be seeing all their details. This is a proxy. Proxy stand for, as I said earlier, is a middleman, right? Proxy means something that sits in the middle. That is, you know, that is accepting a request on behalf of the server and sending the request back. Sorry, that is accepting a request on behalf of the client and also sending requests back to the server on behalf of the client. Is a middle, something that sits in the middle of a web server and a web client. That is what they call proxy. This is where we'll be switching it off. This is where we'll be switching it on. And into that, as he said, Burpsuite, as you can, suite means it's not just a tool. It comprises of tools. That's the meaning of tools. Suite rather, right? So it comprises another tool, intruder. We have intruder here. This is where we can use it to, we can use intruder to to try to guess the password, to brute force. Yeah, that is the right word. To brute force the username and password that is running on a on anything that we are about to hack. This is a repeater. We have sequencer, but I'm just giving a brief, as I said earlier. But the one I will be focusing on right now is this target and the proxy tab. So let me go back to my browser and just type. Before I do that, as I said earlier, we have to first of all configure it, and there is a extension, they call it Foxy Proxy. I've configured it to set. I will just switch to Burpsuite now, so that every traffic that I'll be typing, every traffic that will be going through web browser, it will be Burpsuite will be intercepting it, and from there we can manipulate it, right? This Burpsuite, I've set it, as you can see here, that is on green now, it's on Bob. I've configured it before. It's acting that turn off, use Firefox settings. That is neutral, but now I want to make certain that Burpsuite is the traffic will first of all pass through Burpsuite before going to the server. So I will switch to the Burpsuite now. As you can see, I've switched to it. and I will just go to, firstly, I will type facebook.com. Before I click send, let me turn on my Burpsuite. You know, I said earlier, intercept is off at the moment, but I will turn it on. So I will go back to Firefox and send. As you can see from Burpsuite, under proxy, it is intercepting the request. Hold on, please. Let me check. I think somebody wants to. All right. Someone is requesting an access. So, as you can see from here, it's intercepting the request. Now, this request that we are seeing, it hasn't gone to what is it called, to facebook.com. It's still here on this Burpsuite. Burpsuite is intercepting it. It's as if it is trapping it. And here we can do whatever we like. We can manipulate in the information. You know, we can do a lot of bad things with this Burpsuite before sending it to the server. If you have discovered that the server is, for example, is vulnerable to file upload vulnerability, right? As we saw earlier on that page, from here, we can manipulate the file extension. Of course, they might expect us to upload the file extension in JPG, right? But here, we can first of all intercept the traffic and manipulate it and change maybe the extension to PHP, right? And try. You know, we are just trying. You know, in hacking, you just have to try. You have to be, you know, you must keep your curiosity alive. You just want to know how things will turn about. Whether if I try this, let's see how this server will respond. So that is the function of Burpsuite. Without proxy, there's no way we can do that. Proxy is an important tool in web application. In fact, nobody will be hacking into web application without using proxy, right? Of course, this is the de facto tool. There's another one they call Zap Proxy, but the one will be the community recommended. Sorry, the you know, the industry recommend is Burpsuite rather. You can see here I'm intercepting, and let me go back to my browser. You will see that it will still be loading. Can you see that it's still loading? That means it is being trapped. You will see now that if I should turn off the proxy, the request will go. Let me put the intercept off. You will see that it will show me the response from the server. Can you see now? You can see now that it's displaying the response from the server. But whenever I turn my intercept on, it will just be loading. That means the request is being trapped in Burpsuite. It's not yet sent to the server, because it is when the request gets to the server that we will send the response back. You know, as you saw, as I turn off the proxy, the request, the server gave me a response. So that is just it. And I will still do, let me do another example. Let me turn my proxy on back. Let me put it on back. I will refresh. So what I want to do here, you can see here we have forward. Forward means we can forward the traffic, this particular traffic. You can see, as I said earlier, most of the things that we can see with our eyes, this is where we can be, you know, we can actually break it down. You can see get. Get simply means get this page, right? In what is it called now? In web application, there is a verb. I think yes, there is a verb, and those verb we have get. You can do your own research. We have get, we have post, we have trace, but the commonly known one is post. Whenever you are logging into, I will show you an example of post now. But get means we are sending a request to get a web page of facebook.com. As you can see, I just type facebook.com, and what that actually means is that get me, fetch me the service, a server web interface of facebook.com. That is what this get means, right? And as you can see, host means the host, which is synonymous to domain, which is facebook.com in this case. You know, cookie are just a, you know, the way we establish, we know that this particular what is it called, request is coming from so machine and so machine. Cookie, those are the security, what is it called, authentication protocol, form of authentication protocol in web application, you know, for security purpose. We have user agent. User agent simply means it's giving the telegram of or metadata of the browser that I'm using to browse. The operating system, as you can see, I'm using Mozilla 5.0. I'm using an operating system Linux 64-bit. As you can see, you know, it's just giving a metadata of information about the user devices. accept language, right? We have English, accept text, application HTML. This type of, of course, we all know that web application is being the language that is being used is HTML. So this is where we can begin to manipulate all the requests, right? This is where we can begin to manipulate all the requests. If I now go to where is it now? Targets. Let me go to target. You can see this is facebook.com, and you can see that a lot of pages load with facebook.com. I just type facebook.com. You can see a lot of pages. These are the pages, the analytic pages, all those Google ads on your, all those things will load. Of course, you won't see it when you are not using Burpsuite. That is out of concern here. So this the function of Burpsuite. We use it is a web proxy that we use to intercept traffic, web application traffic. So here I will be stopping, because as I said, in our subsequent class we'll be working with it fully when we'll be accessing into when we'll be practicing with SQLi, as we get to know, is a sequence query language. That is the full meaning of SQL, sequence query language. Is a language that is being used on a database like MySQL. If you know a little bit about databases, relational database management system, we have MySQL, we have Oracle database, we have Microsoft has their own product too. But the most common one is MySQL, right? So SQL is a language that is being used to communicate with the database, right? We'll be looking at it in our subsequent class, how we can hack into database and withdraw, and get information that we ought not to get access to, right? So we'll be looking at it. We'll also be looking at SSS, cross-site scripting, right? And the tool that we'll be using fully is this Burpsuite. We'll be using it to intercept the traffic, as I've shown briefly here. Let me check. All right. So at this point, at this particular point, we've come to the end of the class. So let me move to the next slide. I think this is Q&A time. If you have any question, anything that isn't clear to you, anything about about this today's session that is not yet clear, of course I'll be sending more references, external referencing that you can learn more. I will share with us when I'm sharing, when I will be sending this manuscript to us, this PowerPoint. I will send it to us. I will include the references that you can learn more about web application. But if you have any question, feel free to get back to me on Discord server or our WhatsApp group chat. So I will await your questions. God bless you at this point. We've come to the end of today's class. Thank you.